Chapter 8. One cool, rainy morning, a few weeks later, Luke's family left in such a rush they barely had time to say goodbye. They dashed out the door after breakfast. Matthew and Mark complaining about their packed lunches. Dad calling back, I'm going to that auction up at Chitesville. Won't be home until supper. Mother hurried back and handed Luke a bag of cracklings and three pears and some biscuits from the night before. She muttered, So you won't get hungry, and gave him a quick kiss on the head, and then she was gone too. Luke peeked around the stairway door, surveying the chaos of dirty pans and crumb covered plates left in the kitchen. He knew not to look out as far as the window, but he did anyway. His heart gave a strange jump when he saw the window was covered. Someone must have pulled the shade the night before to try to keep the kitchen warm, and then forgotten to raise it in the morning. Luke dared to lean out a little further. Yes, the shade was down on the other window, too. For the first time in almost 6 months, he could step out into the kitchen and not worry about being seen. He could run, skip, jump, dance, even on the vast linoleum without fear. He could clean up the kitchen and surprise Mother. He could do anything. He put his right foot out tentatively, not quite daring to put his full weight on it. The floor squeaked. He froze. Nothing happened, but he retreated anyway. He went back up the stairs, crawled along the second floor hallway to avoid the windows, then climbed the stairs to the attic. He was so disgusted with himself he could taste it. I am a coward. I am a chicken. I deserve to be locked away in the attic forever, ran through his head. No, no, he countered himself. I'm cautious. I'm making a plan. He climbed up onto the stool on top of a trunk that served as his perch for watching out the back fence. The neighborhood behind his house was fully occupied now. He knew all the families had come up with names for most of them. The big Carr family had four expensive cars sitting in their driveway. The Gold family all had hair the color of sunshine. The Birdbrain family had set a row of 30 birdhouses along their backyard fence, even though Luke could have told them it was pointless to do that until spring. The house he could see best, right behind the gardener's backyard, was occupied by the Sports family. Two teenaged boys lived there, and their deck overflowed with soccer balls, baseball hats, tennis rackets, basketballs, hockey sticks, and apparatus from games Luke could only guess at. Today, he wasn't interested in games. He was interested in seeing the families leave. He had noticed before that all the houses were empty by 9 in the morning, with kids off to school and grown-ups off to work. 3 or 4 of the women didn't seem to have jobs, but they left too, returning late in the afternoon with shopping bags. Today, he just had to make sure no one was staying home sick. The Gold family left first. 2 blonde heads in one car, 2 blonde heads in another. The Sports family was next, the boys carrying football pads and helmets, their mother teetering on high heels. Then there was a flurry of cars streaming from every driveway onto the still sparkling new streets. Luke counted each person, keeping track so carefully that he made scratches on the wall and counted the scratches twice again at the end. Yes, 28 people gone. He was safe. Luke scrambled down from his chair, his head spinning with plans. First, he'd clean up the kitchen. Then he'd start some bread for supper. He'd never made bread before, but he'd watched Mother a million times. Then maybe he could pull the shades in the rest of the house and clean it thoroughly. He couldn't vacuum. That'd be too loud. But he could dust and scrub and polish. Mother would be so pleased. Then, in the afternoon, before Matthew or Mark or the kids in the neighborhood got back, he could put something on for supper, maybe potato soup. Why, he could do this every day. He'd never considered housework or cooking particularly thrilling before. Matthew and Mark always scoffed at it as women's work. But it was better than nothing, and maybe, just maybe, if this worked, he could convince Dad to let him sneak out to the barn and help there too. Luke was so excited. He stepped into the kitchen without a second thought this time. Who cared if the floor creaked? No one was there to hear it. He gathered up dishes from the table and piled them into the sink, scrubbing everything with extraordinary zeal. He measured out flour and lard and milk and yeast and was putting it all in the bowl when it occurred to him it might be okay to turn on the radio very softly. Nobody would hear. And if they did, they'd just figure the family had forgotten to turn it off, just as they'd forgotten to raise the shades. The bread was in the